Good morning. Welcome to Member Focus Monday. I'm Christina Schaefer, Social Media Manager for HAR. I'm joined this morning by Tim Jeffcoat with SBA. Welcome, Tim.
Good morning. Good morning.
We have a lot to share, a lot of questions for you because we have an important time coming up in about 30 minutes, and you can tell us more about that in a second. But I do want to let everyone know that today's Member Focus Monday and this week's HAR on the Move podcast are sponsored by Rodox. Sick happens, why wait? While most of us are at home and maybe some of us not really wanting to leave the house, you can actually book your doctor online at rodox.com, and we'll talk more about them later. But for now, again, thank you so much, Tim, for joining us today. I know you are a very busy man.
But it's my pleasure.
Yes. So if we could start just so our members know exactly who you are, if you could just give us a really quick introduction.
Sure. My name is Tim Jeffcoat. I am the District Director of the Small Business Administration here in Houston. I have a small team here. We've got about 13 people, but we are very actively busy in helping Americans start and grow their small businesses of all industries.
Yeah, very good. As we discussed, most of our audience are Realtors, but you also have some information for property owners and investors as well. So we will definitely get into that. So starting with what is happening at 9 a.m. today?
Okay, so you probably heard that a couple of weeks ago the CARES Act was signed. Mm-hmm. The SBA put the instructions from Congress into practice at that time, which were to fund small businesses with $349 billion of what were called Payroll Protection Program loans, or PPP loans. Those PPP loans were available through local lenders, and then the SBA would guarantee them by 100%. So what that means to the bank is that we will pay those loans if you can't pay them. So that went very quickly. In 14 days, the SBA guaranteed what we would normally guarantee in 14 years. That money ran out. I can't remember exactly when, but it was a little over a week ago. So now there's what we locally affectionately call PPP Junior. So the second round of financing of PPP is coming out right now. Okay. So bankers will start doing those loans in 28 minutes, as a matter of fact. Okay. So when we talked about the first round of financing went so quickly in 14 days, this time instead of $349 billion, it's $310 billion. There are some really important distinctions that you would want to know. First, $60 billion of that was carved out just for local community lenders to be able to disperse. Mm-hmm. So if you are working with one of the smaller banks, or you would like to work with one of the smaller local banks, that's okay. They're going to be ready. You don't have to always work with the big national bank that you might think would be able to be faster. Another important distinction this time around is that we're only allowing the banks to enter a certain number of applications per hour as they process these loans. Okay. So it should slow the pace that the money gets consumed.
That's great to hear. We do, so I want to let our members know, although we are on a time crunch here, we want to get everybody all the information they need before 9:30. I have had some questions from members, pretty common FAQs, so I want to get through those. And then, of course, if you have questions for Tim, we'll try to get through those as well. So the first question, we've seen this quite a bit. As you know, real estate was deemed an essential business. So we've kind of had some questions from members asking, are they eligible to even apply since their business has been deemed essential?
Sure. Well, the designation of essential has nothing to do with the SBA. It's going to have to do with either the state of Texas or the local county or the local municipality, et cetera. So that doesn't matter to us as much. On any given day when there's not a disaster, there are certain industries that are always excluded from being able to access SBA guaranteed financing. And one of those are industries that we deem passive. Mm-hmm. So that's, for instance, sometimes it's apartment complexes. In this case, it's different. We've changed a bunch of those rules. So I'm pretty sure every single business that is watching is eligible for PPP.
Okay.
There's another program available through SBA called EIDL that if you have a passive business, you may not be eligible for, just to be aware of.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about that because we've had some questions about that too. What is the difference between PPP and EIDL?
Sure. So Payroll Protection Program started by the CARES Act. This is new to the world. It's only been around for about 20 days or so. Is intended to fund your business for your payroll and a little bit more. And a little bit is the rent that you pay, or if you have a mortgage and you're buying your building, your mortgage interest and utilities. That's all. It doesn't cover any other expenses. So again, payroll protection program. It's intended for paychecks.
Mm-hmm.
That is, and the way that generally works is that the money that you are lent, we want you to spend that in the following 8 weeks, so it's only good for 8 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
On keeping yourself fully staffed. And if you are just one person, then it's keeping yourself paid. EIDL, on the other hand, Economic Injury Disaster Loan, that comes directly from the SBA. That's a federal government loan. It is not forgiven, but it will be done probably on a 30-year term.
Mm-hmm.
So if you pursue that, and you can pursue both, but if you pursue the EIDL, it covers all of your expenses regardless. So not just payroll, but any operating expenses. And the point of the EIDL is to keep your business whole, to keep you as you were, so that you can continue to operate. The PPP is a maximum of $10 million, 2-year term at 1% interest.
Mm-hmm.
EIDL is maximum $2 million, 30-year term, 3.75% interest.
Okay. So what are the requirements for applying for these different programs?
Right. So with PPP, it's what we call a delegated lending process. So what we are doing with PPP is we're telling the banker, use your own forms, use your own underwriting methods to determine if this loan is possible.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think it's okay, then we agree.
Mm-hmm.
And then they mainly just turn around to our computer system, type in your name, your social security number, and click submit. And then it comes back and tells them, yes, you may do this loan. And that's about as complicated as it gets. With EIDL, you're working directly with the SBA. So we underwrite that loan with our biggest observance being, can the loan be repaid? So people ask, what's the lowest credit score you'll take? Well, it's not really our lowest credit score. We're looking at the entire business.
Okay.
And if your business is capable of repaying the loan, then we're going to bend over backwards to make sure you can get the funding.
Okay, very good. So we have a few questions coming in about EIDL. If you want to go ahead and take a few questions from our audience. So is there, kind of shortening this down because I see this asked by a few different people, Deborah asked a similar question. Basically, is there any way to check on the status of it to see if they're even on the list? Or Deborah said that she received an EIDL advance several days ago, but never received a loan offer. So how can they see their status?
Very good. Well, first, congratulations. I'm delighted you got your advance.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't mention that the EIDL will send you an advance. An advance is synonymous with grant. So that's a gift from the SBA. You do not have to repay that. Up to $10,000. That's calculated as $1,000 per employee. So if you have 10 employees, it's going to be $10,000. And I just got a message. My wife is watching me. Hi. So that was really nice.
Good morning to your wife. Okay, very good. And that answers a few questions from members that were asking about the EIDL grant, if that needs to be repaid. So thank you for answering that.
Now,
go ahead.
As for status, though, the other part of our question.
Sure.
When you submit, you would have gotten what's called an application number. Think of that as your receipt. For instance, if you go to the bank, you deposit some money, you get a receipt. So you've got a receipt. That's evidence that you did the application. That is your confirmation that it's in process. The grant that it showed up is wonderful. What that means is that fairly soon you're going to get an email from the SBA inviting you to click a link, which will get you set up in an internal system of ours so you can begin talking to your loan officer and finish the application process. That's when they will propose to you an amount for the loan, because the loan is going to be based on your operating costs. If you didn't do the greatest job maybe estimating your operating costs, at this point you could change those. You'll be able to do that. You don't have to go only from the original data that you entered. So we'll work that out with you, and then the disbursements will begin. And that same link that you use to set up your account, you will continue to use to manage your loan as you go.
Okay, very good. A quick question here about that. Is internet included in their utilities?
I think, we haven't defined utilities, and for some people that's been very challenging. I would propose that if you can explain to the banker when you are doing your forgiveness why you think it's a utility, as long as they think that's reasonable, then I think you're okay. But typically, yes, I would think internet. If cable TV is important for your business, then cable TV, obviously electric, water, gas. Maybe there's something else there that I'm skipping on. Okay. But I think those are the basics that we might define as utilities.
Very good, very good. For the PPP, if you have an EIN number, she said, you need an EIN number. She said, I work under a broker and his S Corp or C Corp. What do you do in those circumstances? Is it just from brokers? Was her question.
So I'm not really sure of the question, but I will say that if you are paid on 1099s, then you're probably really just an individual contractor, or you yourselves, we might view you as a sole proprietor. In that case, you wouldn't have an EIN. You'd probably just use your social security number. If you are working for somebody, you get paid with a W-2, then they should be claiming you on their PPP with their EIN. I hope that answered your question.
Okay, a similar question here from Ben C. She said, do our employees have to be on official payroll? If they are 1099, can they apply for either program?
Yeah, so I'll answer two things. The first one you didn't ask, but I'm going to answer it anyway. People sometimes say, what about my 1099 employees?
Sure.
Those two words don't go together. There's no such thing as a 1099 employee. A 1099 is a contractor. An employee gets a W-2. So don't ever make that, the IRS will not look favorably towards you if you get that confused.
Okay.
So if you have 1099s, they may apply for their own PPPs and their own EIDLs. They absolutely can. You, in your business, if you, let's say, have 20 people that you pay with 1099s, well, we know now they're not employees, but you can claim their contract cost when you apply for an EIDL loan. So that way, with the EIDL loan, you can be funded to get them back to work as 1099 contractors and be paying them.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. So we have some questions about this, and this was a question that I had for you as well, so I'll go ahead and ask it. Is there a benefit to applying directly with the SBA versus a large bank versus a small bank? We've seen some members have more success with one over the other. So what would you say there?
When you apply directly with the SBA for an EIDL loan, it looks like and this is anecdotal, I don't have any real statistics, but the businesses I've been talking to, including some just this morning, are getting their advance usually within about a week or so, maybe 10 days, and then they're getting their loan, their EIDL loan, within about 30 to 40 days, give or take. So that gives up some parameters. PPP loan, from the time that it is formally approved, as I described earlier, they go to the SBA system, they type in the information, and it says, yes, you may now make this a loan at your bank. They must disperse money to you within 10 days. So PPP will probably be faster, but again, it's only good for 8 weeks. The EIDL is intended to fund you for probably 6 months, long enough to get completely out of this disaster.
Okay, very good. And some people asking when the EIDL link is going to be available.
In this latest round of funding, $310 billion went to PPP, but $60 billion went to refund the EIDL for the coronavirus and an additional $10 billion to fund the advances. So it has been turned off, that portal, because there was no funding. Now there is funding. But we are taking probably, I don't know how long, I'm going to guess this week, but we're taking a little time to clean up more of the existing applications, such as your very first question, how do I get status on my EIDL? It is being worked on, and if we hold off a few days, we can get a whole lot more of those taken care of before we let more into our flow. If you think of it this way, the PPP has been done across 5,000 banks in the United States. Let's say they have on average 5 people at those banks. That's 25,000 people processing loans. The entire SBA doesn't have 25,000 people. Actually, we probably only have about 1,500. So we are hiring as fast as we can, but we aren't at 25,000. So it's taken a little bit of time to process this, and I hate to reuse this word that you use so much, but unprecedented demand for loans. So EIDL will be up soon. I'll tell you what you can do. You can follow us on Twitter, or you go to my webpage, just Google SBA Houston, bottom right-hand corner. You can sign up for our email updates. As soon as the EIDL portal is open again, we're going to send it to you. One more thing, and this is real important. Twice a day, we are doing public webinars out of my office to help educate you about these processes. And when we do it, we show you the application step by step. And I'm looking up here. There's one happening actually right this minute. Please don't leave here to go there. And
yeah, don't leave here.
3 o'clock. Yeah, there's 1 at 9, 1 at 3. So when you go to my webpage, those should be posted there. In the middle of the page, it says business resources. There's a category under that for coronavirus. I think it's the first thing is a link to all of these webinars, as well as the slides that we use, and a list of local lenders that do PPP lending. So if you don't have a bank you want to use, then you can go there and find one that is willing to accept brand new customers, and they will be able to take care of you for PPP. And one more thing, I know I didn't answer part of your question earlier. You had said, how do you decide which bank to work with? Do you do a big one? Do you do a small one? What do you do?
Right.
Well, we've tried to make it, the big ones have, in some respects, an advantage. They tend to have these big automated computer systems that can just inject applications very quickly into the SBA. This time around, we were limiting them to where they can only do 350 per hour. That might sound really fast to you, but it's not fast to them, I promise. Yeah. It's very slow to them. And $60 billion was carved out just for those community banks. So I would look at it this way. The really big banks have potentially thousands of commercial customers, maybe tens of thousands, where the local community bank that you know and that you trust might only have 1,000 total. So there may be a lot less activity. They may be able to give you a little more service. We love all the bankers that work with the SBA.
Sure.
But I want you to get the one that's going to take care of you the fastest and the best.
Absolutely. To that point, we've seen this question quite a bit, and Gigi asked it just now in the comments. As a 1099, my bank says I cannot apply because I do not have a business checking, only personal checking. Is this a requirement by SBA?
No, it is not. And if you need the PPP, I want you to get the PPP. Go to a different bank.
Okay.
Go to my website, get that list of bankers. There's a column there that indicates they will accept new clients, and go get with those. You can always call my office and we can help direct you to it. But if you just Google SBA Houston, kind of about halfway down on the left under coronavirus is a list of those banks.
That's excellent. That's an excellent resource. Elizabeth in the comments was just saying it's been a nightmare trying to find a bank to work with. So a list of banks that you can work with on the SBA Houston site. That's excellent. So we have a question, but you kind of already answered this, but let's just clarify here about getting status. Leslie said she did the EIDL. It's been much longer than 10 days with no response. We did get a number when we submitted, so I guess she's just asking how does she check that?
Yep, there's nothing to check. I know it's frustrating. I know how you feel. I mean, I've been a business owner myself, and not being able to look at something like an Amazon thing that tells you when you ordered here and it ships here and you're here. Sorry, it's just not there right now. But you have your application number. That means we are working on it. Watch your bank account. When the advance comes, assuming you requested an advance, we're not going to tell you. I don't know why, but we don't tell you it's coming. It just shows up in your account from U.S. Treasury. So if you have a commercial account that has a lot of traffic on it, you want to really watch that and see when that advance comes. But otherwise, it is in progress. You can call our customer service number or email our disaster customer service folks. I can tell you what they're going to say, which is it is in process. So
yeah, it's a waiting game.
Take a walk to pass the time, and pretty soon we were going to be in touch with you.
Absolutely. Several people asking for the link for SBA banks. We will actually provide that to you guys after this broadcast is over, the direct link for you. But as Tim said, you can also Google SBA Houston and you can find that resource there as well. Deborah said she's heard of people applying with multiple banks. Is that acceptable?
It is acceptable. at the end of the day, what I care about is you get the funding that your business needs. These are tough times, and if you really need this, I want you to get it. So it could create some problems for the banks, and that's not good. But what's more important is you get funded. So here's the way it happens. So if you do an application with 2 banks, maybe you picked a really huge bank and then you chose a small local bank. Whichever one goes to the SBA computer system first, plugs in your information, gets the loan number.
Okay.
They're your bank now. The next bank, when they finally put your information in, it's going to come back and say someone else already has this loan. The negative is that then they may have to stop what they're doing and say, well, we had an error. Why did this error occur? What do we do about it? Blah, blah, blah. So maybe that slowed them down. There's a few people that they're not taking care of and for that period of time. I suspect they'll just move your application to the side and keep going. But that's what will happen. So it will create a little bit of a snafu for the lender that didn't get the loan, but you got funded.
Okay.
And you being funded is what matters to us.
Okay. Terry said she filed EIDL and indicated 0 employees, not considering herself. Will this be denied, and can they update that that application, excuse me?
Yeah. So it won't be denied. It does mean, I'm pretty sure it means you will not get an advance, because the advance is calculated as $1,000 per employee. So that won't happen now. Okay. But once we contact you to set up your link into our secure system to start establishing the terms of your loan, you'll have an opportunity then to say, hey, you know what? I meant to put myself in and I didn't. Can I amend that now? And what have you. And yes, you will absolutely have a chance to change that.
Okay, very good. And several people were asking that, can we apply to multiple banks? So we got the answer there is yes. Very good. And several people are sharing links in the comments. Thank you guys for doing that. That really helps us out. You made this clarification earlier, but maybe we need to clarify one more time. Is EIDL a grant and not a loan? Is PPP a loan? And what is the interest and repayment terms?
Okay. Yeah. PPP is a loan. It's for 2 years, 1% interest, up to $10 million, no payments for the first 6 months. The thing that is so appealing about PPP is that as long as you spend the money the way it was intended, then 100% of the loan can be forgiven so that you will never make a payment.
Okay.
What happens is after the 8 weeks is up, you submit some paperwork to your lender saying, here's how I spent my money, thank you very much. We give them 60 days to tell us, yes, this is okay, you can forgive this loan. And what happens is we pay off your loan. Done. EIDL is a loan from the United States government. The advance part is a grant. So that's a gift from the SBA to help you with your business. After that, it's 30-year term, maximum of $2 million, 3.75% interest. So it's very low interest, very long terms to make it as affordable as possible for your business. Last thing we want to do is encumber you with so much debt that now you have this second mortgage. Nope, I guess I forgot who I'm talking to. But the second mortgage looming over you, and it's difficult to pay. Plus, with this SBA loan, it's direct from the federal government, so we're not a mortgage company, we're not a bank. We don't care so much about the interest, meaning we don't care when you pay it off.
Okay.
So if you get an EIDL and you're 18 months in and you go, hey, I'm doing great and I've got a bunch of money laying around now, I'm just going to pay this thing off, go ahead. We won't mind at all. Okay.
Very good. There was a question about the distinction between 1099 and employees, and somebody answered that, repeated what you mentioned earlier, so thank you. How much of the EIDL is forgiven, and how is this determined?
None of the EIDL is forgiven, just that initial advance amount, and that's calculated as $1,000 per employee. So if you have 5 employees, when you apply for EIDL, you are allowed to get a $5,000 grant. Let's say that the amount of your loan winds up being $500,000. Then that's going to be spread over 30 years to make it real manageable, but it does need to be repaid. It won't be forgiven. Okay, very good. A few people asking for what are forgivable expenses: auto, mortgage, utilities, marketing, insurance, ... Yeah. So with PPP, there's only it's very, very limited. It's exciting to a lot of people because it can be 100% forgiven, but it only covers a little bit. It covers paychecks. Beyond paychecks, it only covers rent if you pay rent, interest on your mortgage if you're purchasing your property, and it covers utility payments.
Okay.
Utilities, that's pretty narrow field. So people might like to say, a toll tag or mileage on your car, whatever is utilities. It's not. It's operating expenses. And if you're unsure, ask whoever your accountant is, and they can help you out on what a utility is versus an operating expense.
Very good.
So if you have a lot of operating expenses, PPP might not be the best choice for you. Or it could be that if you have a lot of employees and a lot of operating expenses, PPP for payroll, EIDL for all the rest.
Okay. I had another question come in here. Studies have been published that even with the second round of funding, there will still be more needed by small businesses. Do you expect another round after this one?
I do not. That's not to say there won't be. And there are. I have heard discussions in Congress, and honest, I don't pay much attention right now. Normally, I pay a lot of attention to what's happening in Congress. We're totally focused on people like you right now.
Okay.
So I'm not watching the news very much, and I'm not keeping up. But I have heard that one party is pushing hard for some more small business funding, while the other is saying absolutely not. We're done. We've spent as much as we can possibly spend without bankrupting the country. So I would view this round of $310 billion worth of PPP as this is the end of it.
Okay.
I think you really want to look at it that way. Otherwise, it would be a personal opinion. So I don't know anything special about what's happening. We work closely with a lot of with our two senators and all of the congressional representatives here in the Houston area. We do webinars with most of them, one of them actually at 11 o'clock today.
Okay.
And I know they're all talking about it, but right now they're talking a lot more about other needs, more medical needs and infrastructure needs, as opposed to small business needs. So again, I think it's limited likelihood. Doesn't mean it won't happen, but I think you need to view this as the last round of financing.
Okay. Jill just asked, so if you're the only employee, should you not apply for EIDL?
No, I think I think the bottom line is if you have operating costs, operating expenses for your business, and you need to get some money to help you keep those operating costs going, even though you're the only employee, it is absolutely intended for you. It's perfect for you. If you have a bunch of 1099s, for instance, and you have to reimburse a lot of their costs, those are operating costs that you won't be able to reimburse otherwise. So yes, it could be the perfect choice for you.
Okay. And obviously time is of the essence. Shala is just asking, is there any deadline to apply for the PPP?
There's not a deadline, no. In 3 minutes, you can begin applying for it. And many banks, even small community banks, have these applications on their websites. So you might look at that as well. It may really help you to grab that list off of our website and sign up for our email list, just to find the people that are really active. But no, there's not a deadline. It's whenever the money runs out.
Okay.
When the money runs out, applications will no longer be accepted.
One question here, what percentage of PPP has gone to very small employers versus very large?
74%, a little more than 74%. So we use a metric, and it's indirect. It's not as accurate as you might think. But we measure these loans by the size of the loan that's issued. And the really small loans were 74% of that first round of financing. The really big loans, I think, was less than 1%. So the vast majority went to businesses that employ just a handful of people.
Okay. Just a few people asking, can PPP, how can those funds be used? Leslie said, can it be payroll for yourselves? She has a 2-person team. Rhonda's asking about employee costs, employee benefits, things like that. So what should that be used for?
Yeah, it's for all payroll costs. So that would be retention pay, severance pay, benefits, retirement plans if you do that, state and local tax, but not federal tax, because that's already built into the wages. And I might have forgotten something in there, but anything that would normally be construed as a payroll cost. Now, I will send to you when this is over so you can distribute to your folks a link. And at this link, you can go to this link and it gives you specific examples of calculating based on whether you're a sole prop or a 1099 or a C Corp or a subchapter S or an LLC or what have you. And that might help you a lot too. I know you're probably going to ask me this, but I'm going to say it anyway. if you think PPP is something you should pursue, I encourage you to stop what you're doing and get it done today.
Get it done today. Yeah.
I can't tell you how long this $310 billion is going to last. We've slowed down the process, as I mentioned, and it may take all week. It may take 2 weeks. But then again, the more pessimistic people out there are saying it'll take 24 hours.
Very good.
And so time is of the essence.
Yes. Time is of the essence, and I see it is officially 9:30, so I just want to ask one more quick technical question that Benzie sent in. If someone obtains an SBA loan, will that be counted in their debt-to-income ratio if they apply for another loan?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, very good.
Yes, it will.
Very good. And I know that your team is working hard and very busy, but we do have a few other questions coming in. So if you or someone on your team after this broadcast could, pull up this and answer some of their questions, I'm sure they would greatly appreciate that. Is there anything else that you want to share with us before we wrap this up?
One last thought. If you need this financing, we absolutely want you to get it. We want you to be able to be sustained while this is underway. But this is also a heck of an opportunity. I know it might not feel like it, but you're all working so hard in your businesses normally. Now is a chance to work on your business when it's a lot slower. So we have over 200 people here in the Houston area that are completely free to you, that can consult with you about your business. They can help you map out a 60-day or a 90-day strategy, but even more importantly, a 1 or 2 year strategy on how you're going to go from now to being completely vibrant and robust in a year or in 6 months. And I really think it's an outstanding opportunity. So very short term, you got to get some money. You got to be able to keep your business going. Go after that PPP. And I think today is the day you need to do it. Yeah. But once that's underway, turn your attention back to what's your business going to be in a year or in 2 years. I know you're worrying about tomorrow, but when you get this funding in place, now you can worry about longer out. And I think that's really important, and that's what we want to help you with.
That's great. That's great advice. And thank you so much for your time. I know you are very busy on calls, it seems like all day long, but we really do appreciate it.
Busy for you.
Thank you. I do want to remind everyone that today's Member Focus Monday and this week's HR on the Move podcast are sponsored by Rodox. We're going to play a really quick video about what they do now more than ever. Some of us are trying to avoid the doctor's office, but you might be getting sick. So let's take a look at what she has to say really quick.
Hi, I'm Dr. Letitia Rowe, a family medicine physician and the founder of Rodox. I look forward to discussing with the HAR community the importance of utilizing telemedicine during the coronavirus outbreak to stay healthy. Whether you're working from home or out showing homes or a manager for a residential community, telemedicine can benefit you, your clients, and your tenants. Tune in and learn the best way to stay healthy during these trying times.
So thank you again to Rodox for sponsoring. And I see a few people asking, where do they go to apply?
Number one, you would go to my website and find the banks, we were talking about PPP, and find the banks that are offering this financing. There's about 200 of them, but at least 15 or 20 of those are willing to accept brand new clients. I give you the link to their website there. So you can go down, you can find the one that says, yes, I'm accepting new clients. There's their website. Click it. It's already hyperlinked for you. Go straight to their website. And many of them will have an online application. So you'll be able to submit it there. If they are taking paper applications, and some are very small banks, and they're doing it, and they're processing them quickly, then you can do a paper application and then email that to them. Well, obviously you're going to scan it or something like that. But that is right there on our website. So you can Google SBA Houston, or it's sba.gov/tx/Houston. Okay. Right there in the middle on the left-hand side under Business Resources.
Perfect. Thank you again for your time today. This has been wonderful. We really appreciate it.
Very welcome, and good luck to everybody. I hope you remain well and your business remains well.
Thank you. And thank you again for tuning in to Member Focus Monday. Tim and his team will be taking a look at any of the questions that we didn't answer in the comments. So if you didn't get your question answered, just hang tight and they will try to answer those as quickly as they can. And of course, HR will go in and answer any questions that we may know the answer to. So thank you again, everyone. We hope everyone has a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.